Okay, the next Cinderella book that I got, it's called A Mexican Cinderella Story, and it's called Adelita. And this book is by Tommy de Paola. And it has really pretty colors throughout too. I've been to Mexico, and anytime I buy pottery or blankets or anything from there, it's always these really rich, vibrant colors. And they're throughout the whole book. And there are Spanish words throughout the story, so it's kind of cool. Hace mucho tiempo, a long time ago, in a village in Mexico, there lived a merchant named Francisco and his beautiful young wife, Adela. One day, Adela said, Francisco, estamos esperando un bebé. We are going to have a baby. Adela, Francisco said, I am so happy. Then he said, we must send for Esperanza. She will come and take care of you until the baby is born, and then she will help us with the baby. Esperanza had been with the Mercado family since she was a young girl, and she had looked after Francisco when he was a baby. Esperanza came right away. She took care of Adela, but after the birth of the baby, Adela was ill. She grew weaker, and shortly after, she held her little girl for the first and last time. Quietly, she died. Francisco was heartbroken. He named his baby daughter Adelita, little Adela, after her mother. Francisco was sad for his Adela, and he missed her greatly, but gradually Adelita filled his heart with love. Time passed, and Adelita grew into a beautiful young woman. The Mercado house was full of happiness. One evening, Francisco called Adelita and Esperanza to his study. My dear Adelita, my good Esperanza, les tengo noticias. My Spanish is lacking. It's been a while. I have some news for you. I have met a charming woman and I have decided to marry again. Her name is Senora Michaela de la Fortuna. She is a widow and has 2 daughters close to your age. Adelita, I know you will like Doña Michaela and her daughters, Valentina and Dulce. Adelita was happy for her father. Esperanza wasn't so sure, especially after she met Doña Michaela and her daughters. They're cold ones, Esperanza said. Life was happy but different. Adelita had to share her father's attention, but they still managed to have importantes momentos juntos, special moments together. Adelita didn't mind that Doña Michaela favored her daughters, even though Esperanza complained. It's natural, Adelita told her. Then suddenly her father died from an illness and everything changed. Poor Adelita was an orphan. Doña Michaela had always been jealous of Adelita. Now she no longer had to hide it. She moved Adelita from her beautiful bedroom to a small room in the attic. No longer did Adelita have new dresses. She had to wear hand-me-downs. Worst of all, Valentina and Dulce were mean and hateful to her. Adelita began spending all her time in the kitchen with Esperanza. She helped her with the meals. She listened to stories about her father as a boy and her mother as a young bride. Because she knew that Esperanza loved her, Adelita's heart stayed as warm as the fire in the hearth. One day, Doña Michaela came to the kitchen and spoke to them. I am spending too much money in this household. From now on, you, Adelita, will work in the kitchen. You are here all the time anyway. And you, Esperanza, out. I want you to leave immediately. Oh, Senora de la Fortuna, please don't send me away, Esperanza pleaded. I have been with this family since I was a girl. I will work for no money, just for a place to lay my head and a bowl of beans and a tortilla. Oh, please, Mama, Adelita begged. Esperanza can share my room and my food. Out, shouted Senora Michaela. Then, in an icy voice, she spoke to Adelita, and don't you dare call me Mama again. I am Dona Michaela to you. She turned and left, nose in the air. Amid tears and hugs, poor Esperanza said goodbye to Adelita and left with her meager belongings. Adelita was in despair. The days ahead held nothing but loneliness and hard work. Adelita had to prepare all the meals, clean the rooms, and fetch and carry for Valentina and Dulce, who became more like meanness and vinegar. Mi hijas, my daughters, Doña Michaela said one morning as Adelita was serving breakfast. El Señor and La Señora Gordillo have sent us an invitation to una fiesta en su hacienda, a party at their ranch to celebrate the homecoming of their son Javier. Ooh, mama, Valentina and Dulce twittered. And Doña Michaela said with a smile, si rumor has it that he will be looking for a wife. The daughters nearly fainted. Secretly, each wanted to be the wife of Javier, and each would do anything to get him. Doña Michaela, Adelita asked as she poured the hot chocolate, may I go too? I knew Senor Javier when we were young. I would love to see him again. Are you serious? Doña Michaela asked. Look at you, so poorly dressed, such a dirty face. I would be too embarrassed to have you in our company. You will stay here, and that is final. Adelita went back to the kitchen. The next days were busy. Adelita did not have a minute to herself. Washing, pressing, sewing ribbons on, taking lace off, at the mercy of every little whim of the sisters as each tried to outdo the other. So when Doña Michaela, Valentina, and Dulce left for the fiesta, Adelita went to the kitchen and sat by the fire. Suddenly, disappointment swept over her and she began to weep. She missed her father. She missed Esperanza. She missed being at the fiesta. Tap, tap, tap. She heard a soft knock at the door. Who is it? Adelita asked. Soy yo, only me. It was Esperanza. Oh, Esperanza, I have missed you so much, Adelita cried. Don't cry, my little one, Esperanza said. I am here. I had a dream that Doña Michaela would not let you go to the fiesta, so I have come to help. I have borrowed a cart to take you there, but I have nothing to wear, Adelita said. Come with me, Esperanza said. They went to the storeroom. Over there, behind those boxes, is your mother's trunk. The key is behind the crucifix. Adelita unlocked the trunk. Inside, she found an old-fashioned, beautiful white dress. Under the dress was a magnificent rebozo, a shawl, embroidered with birds and flowers. Oh, mi mamacita, my little mother, Adelita whispered. Adelita washed and dressed. Esperanza braided her hair and wound ribbons and flowers into it. Oh, Esperanza, Adelita said, Doña Michaela will be furious when she sees me. Don't worry, she will never recognize you, Esperanza assured her. Now, vámonos, let's hurry. The fiesta had already begun when Adelita arrived. She walked into the room. Everyone turned to look. The room fell silent. Who was this stunning young woman? Senor Gordillo went up to Adelita. Who do we have here? He asked. I'm in disguise, Adelita said with a twinkle and a sweet smile. Just call me Cenicienta, Cinderella. Javier, everyone, come meet our very own Cenicienta. Javier took one look and fell in love. He danced every dance with Adelita. He brought her refreshments and never left her side. Adelita's heart was full as well, and all the meanness she had suffered over the years began to melt. But at midnight, when Javier gave her a sweet kiss and declared his love, Adelita was frightened. How could she explain who she was? His family would never allow him to love a kitchen maid. Basically, the rest of the story is kind of how we see the traditional Cinderella. She loses her slipper, her glass slipper, and Javier told everyone he would not rest until he found his Cinderella. So he goes from house to house until he finally finds his Cinderella, and they marry. So that is pretty much the story. Adelita, or Adela for short, is a beautiful young lady. We know that she's a very caring person. She senses that the young woman and her daughters being brought into the family are not nice people, but she ignores that for the happiness of her father. So she's very selfless, very loving. She cares about her father. The story also talks about Adela, Adelita, having to share her father's attention, but her not minding so much, so that we can assume she's a very open-minded and warm-hearted person, wanting those around her to be happy. She's also very determined. She puts on her mother's shawl and dress and heads to the fiesta, the party, even though she knows her stepmother is not going to be happy. So she does want more for herself. The gown is a beautiful old-fashioned white dress that belonged to Adelita's mother. Under the dress, it says, was a beautiful rebozo, which means shawl. I probably didn't say that right. And I think that the gown or the dress has significance because it was her mother's. And this was a time in her life where she was probably really missing her mom. She had a big night ahead of her, a beautiful gown right there. She was getting ready to go see this Prince Javier. So probably needed a little piece of her mom. So I think that that gown really represented her mother and maybe memories. Well, I guess she was a baby, so she wouldn't have had memories, but probably just that mother presence right there with her. In that special moment in her life when she really needed her mom. And the shoe, of course, was the glass slipper that she had lost. And then the prince or Javier finding it and being determined and going from house to house to find who the owner of the glass slipper was. And the stepmother, Donna Michaela, we know her character development. She's a very cold, very evil person. The part of the story that got me was when Adela, who never had a mother and whose father passed away, actually called this woman that was so cruel to her mama, and she said, "Don't call me that. I'm not your mother." That just signifies how cold-hearted and how cruel that she is. And the prince, Javier, we can determine that he's very determined. He wants to go from home to find his beloved. So it says he's a very handsome prince. And then the fairy godmother is obviously Esperanza, this wonderful woman that raised Adelita's father and then came to help raise Adelita. And then the ball, which is the fiesta, which is Spanish for party. And the colors in this book, I think, again, like my other book, the colors just do a great job of just the brightness. If you see these, as I said before, every time I've been to Mexico, my husband and I have been several times. We've taken our son. All the pottery, all the rugs, all the blankets, just everything we see is just beautiful reds and just really, really vibrant colors. I don't see any like black vases or just really brown, dull. It's always really, really vibrant. And as you can see, every single picture, the color just stands out. Every color. And I thought that the significance in this picture, every page is just bright and colorful. And then you get to this picture when the mom dies and it's kind of that dark. I mean, it's still a bright purple, but it's kind of a little darker than the others. And that purple maybe signifies just mournful, just a mourning, quiet. So they're just heartbroken. So I think that this darkness kind of signifies that. And the illustrations, they're just very, very pretty. And there's these patterns on every single page. Just that tile. As I said, every time we went to Mexico, each house we've been in, we have family and friends there. A lot of them do have that tiled look, even not just in kitchen or bathrooms, it's everywhere. So I thought that was kind of cool that on every page it has kind of that tiled border on every page, and you see it again lining the outsides of homes, those patterns and that texture. So I really enjoyed this book, and I thought it was neat to read the Spanish words throughout also.